Four Seasons, Hotels and Resorts, has never filed for bankruptcy. It has never been the subject of a covenant breach proceeding. It has never experienced a distressed sale at the portfolio level. It operates approximately 130 properties across 50 countries, consistently ranks at the top of every luxury hotel quality metric that the hospitality industry tracks, and has maintained its position as the global standard for ultra-luxury hotel management across 6 decades of operation. Through multiple recessions, through the AIDS crisis that devastated international travel in the late 1980s, through September 11th, through the 2008 financial crisis, and through the COVID-19 pandemic, whose impact on luxury hotel operations was the most severe peacetime disruption in the industry's history. The explanation for this record is not that Isidore Sharp, who founded Four Seasons in 1961 and guided it through most of its operational history, was a better hotel manager than the operators documented in this channel's archive. Some of those operators were exceptionally skilled. The explanation is that Four Seasons constructed a business model whose specific financial architecture removes the primary mechanism by which hotel companies fail: the debt service obligation on owned real estate that cannot be sustained when RevPAR falls below the level the debt structure requires. Four Seasons does not own its hotels. It manages them. The distinction is the entire case file. When a Four Seasons property's RevPAR declines in a recession, the property owner experiences a financial problem. Four Seasons experiences a management fee reduction. The property owner may face a covenant breach. Four Seasons continues managing the property for a reduced fee, maintaining the brand standard that will allow the property to recover when the recession ends. Subscribe now, because Four Seasons found the answer to the question this channel has been asking across 104 case files. And the answer is, don't own the real estate. Isidore Sharp's development of the Four Seasons management contract model across the 1970s and 1980s reflected a specific insight about the hotel industry's financial architecture that the leveraged acquisition cases this channel has documented in its private equity Grand Hotel Playbook episode hadn't yet produced. Because the leveraged acquisitions this channel documents were produced by investors who believed the real estate was the asset and the management was the expression of its value. Sharp's insight was the reverse. The management capability is the asset, and the real estate is the medium through which it is expressed. This is the same insight that Omni Hotels' leadership extracted from the 1991 restructuring documented in Case File 101. But where Omni arrived at the insight through loss, Sharp built his company's architecture around it from the beginning. The Four Seasons management contract model works as follows. A real estate owner, a sovereign wealth fund, an institutional investor, a private family office, or a developer, builds or acquires a luxury hotel property and contracts with Four Seasons to manage it under the Four Seasons brand in exchange for a management fee that is typically structured as a percentage of revenue and a percentage of gross operating profit. Four Seasons receives the management fee. The property owner receives the residual operating cash flow after management fees and all other operating expenses, which it uses to service the debt that financed the property's construction or acquisition. The property owner bears the debt service risk. Four Seasons bears the management execution risk. The debt service risk in a luxury hotel is the risk this channel has documented across its archive as the universal mechanism of hotel company failure. When RevPAR declines, debt service coverage deteriorates, covenant breach follows, and the financial structure requires resolution. When the debt service risk sits with the property owner rather than with Four Seasons, Four Seasons is insulated from the mechanism that destroys hotel companies. The Four Seasons brand's value to a property owner is the specific premium that Four Seasons management generates above what an independent luxury hotel or a competing brand management company would generate, expressed as incremental RevPAR that justifies the management fee structure. Four Seasons hotels consistently outperform their competitive sets in RevPAR across virtually every market they operate in. A performance premium that the hospitality industry's independent benchmarking has documented consistently enough to constitute an empirical finding rather than a brand marketing claim. The RevPAR premium that Four Seasons generates is the product of the company's specific operational systems. Its staff training programs, whose rigor and consistency across properties produces service delivery at a standard that luxury travelers recognize and will pay a premium to access. Its property standards, whose maintenance and capital investment requirements. Four Seasons imposes on property owners through management agreement provisions that require renovation, investment to be made on timelines that maintain competitive positioning, and its guest relationship platform, whose Four Seasons Preferred Partner Program and mobile app create the direct guest relationship that generates the repeat business that luxury hotel RevPAR depends on. The specific management contract provision that prevents the operational deterioration this channel has documented in leveraged hotel acquisitions is the capital expenditure requirement. Four Seasons management agreements typically require property owners to maintain capital expenditure reserves at levels sufficient to renovate properties on schedules that Four Seasons determines are necessary to maintain brand standard. The property owner cannot defer renovation to service debt without violating the management agreement, which Four Seasons can terminate, removing the brand and the management capability that justified the debt structure in the first place. This termination right is the specific contractual mechanism that aligns the property owner's renovation, investment incentives with the brand standard maintenance that Four Seasons RevPAR premium requires. The COVID-19 pandemic produced the most severe test of the Four Seasons management contract model's resilience that the company had encountered in its 60-year history. A global luxury travel demand collapse that reduced RevPAR at Four Seasons properties by 60 to 80% in many markets during 2020, eliminating the management fees that are Four Seasons' primary revenue source. Four Seasons' response to the COVID revenue collapse documented the specific financial discipline that the management contract model requires at an institutional level. The company reduced its corporate overhead, deferred non-essential capital programs, and in some cases, renegotiated management fees with property owners whose financial positions were severely stressed, while maintaining the brand standards at open properties whose guest experience during the pandemic would define the brand's post-pandemic market position. Four Seasons did not breach any debt covenant during the pandemic because Four Seasons does not have hotel-level debt. Its exposure was to management fee revenue, which declined sharply, and to corporate overhead that the fee decline required it to reduce. The property owners whose properties Four Seasons managed faced the debt service challenge that the fee decline produced. But the challenge was the property owner's challenge, not Four Seasons. The company that manages the hotels survived the pandemic through fee reduction and overhead management. The companies that own hotels survived through debt restructuring, forbearance agreements, and in some cases, the bankruptcy proceedings that this channel has documented as the universal hotel financial failure mechanism. What Four Seasons reveals in the context of this channel's 105-case archive is the specific answer to the question that this channel's analytical framework raises across every failure case. What ownership structure and business model prevents the debt service mechanism from becoming the hotel's institutional failure trigger? The Four Seasons answer is the management contract model whose financial architecture separates the brand's management capability from the real estate's ownership obligation. Four Seasons captures the brand premium through management fees, while the property owner bears the debt service risk that owning the real estate requires. The breakers documented the charitable trust ownership answer: eliminate the debt by eliminating the leveraged acquisition. Four Seasons documented the management contract answer: eliminate the debt by never owning the real estate in the first place. Both answers work. The breakers requires a century of accumulated institutional history and charitable ownership. Four Seasons requires a brand premium sufficient to justify management fees that property owners are willing to pay, and management agreement provisions that enforce the capital investment standards that sustain the premium. The distinction between the two models is the distinction between institutional permanence and brand premium. The broker's permanence does not depend on market validation, while Four Seasons' position depends entirely on maintaining a RevPAR premium that property owners can measure and competitors are continuously attempting to match. Four Seasons has maintained that premium for 60 years. The management contract model has not failed because the brand premium has not failed. The two are the same thing. The specific risk that Four Seasons model carries is the risk that the brand premium erodes through management quality decline, through competitive advancement by competing luxury brands, or through the kind of brand dilution that Case File 09DO documented as the systematic consequence of franchising a brand beyond the scale that brand standard maintenance can sustain. Four Seasons has not franchised its brand. It has managed approximately 130 properties at the standard that 130 properties managed by a company whose institutional identity is the management standard can sustain. This content was developed using artificial intelligence tools as part of the research, writing, and production process. All AI-generated material was subject to human review, editorial intervention, and approval before publication.